Ph11b, week number 3. I hope you are enjoying the semester so far. We're only 2 weeks in, but it's a lot of work online, right? Lots of reading, lots of research, lots of going back, lots of double checking your work. I hope you are taking advantage of the open forum conversations. I'm really enjoying our discussion forum conversations. I'm amazed at how much we can actually socialize in those discussions, which is fantastic. Last week was a little introspective, and it was a lot on the creative workflow. I hope that helps drive your focus on creating images. This week, I want to do a little stepping back. It might be really slow and remedial for some of you, but it's never a bad idea to cover some of the basics. So here I am going into the overview, but you would already be in this conversation. The big topics will be some file optimization, but really an exposure review. Recalling those proper exposure techniques and practice visualizing locations with proper exposure opportunities. What? I've got a little fun photo shooting assignment. The discussion forum this week is open. Share in there. Remember, last week's now is closed, but you can go in there and review any of the questions. I'll jump into here into exposure review in a second. I also have a little history assignment for you. I'm going to introduce a photographer named Sarah Moon to you. I have a couple videos of her. Some of them are in production, which is interesting. The little short documentary is really fun. Sarah Moon, creative process. I love to talk about Sarah when we're talking about creative process. Her work is both commercial, but yet feels very important to be hung on a wall. And her color is one of my favorite photographers utilizing color today. But she has a very fun and serendipitous way of working. She puts together this whole production, this whole shoot. She throws a bunch of clothes together, creates this set, and then they go out and they have fun and they wait for serendipity to take place. So to see how she organizes this and then yet lets the freedom sneak in is really interesting as well. I feel like I'm talking weird. Let's do this. Lots of odds already. So you'll have, I'm going to jump all the way to the tasks. So you have a discussion, an assignment, a discussion, another discussion, and then an assignment, your sketchbook. And then I'm throwing something at you this week that might look a little weird, but let's check it out. Let's start with the Sarah Moon discussion. That's following up with the history lesson you did. Talk about your thoughts on Sarah Moon, techniques, aesthetics, and how you could implement that in your work. Now that we're talking about the creative workflow. And that's the most important part here, is being creative and generating content and your voice at the end of the day. That's what people are really going to gravitate towards. So it's the Sarah Moon. I have a shooting assignment that I'm going to throw at you. I have the critique of the shooting assignment, a discussion, and then mobile photo portrait creative process. What is that? And then a sketchbook. So let's jump into the assignment, which should make a little bit more sense after we cover the exposure review, but you can pop in here and check this out. You can read the objectives, you can read the materials list, are going to create this with your mobile device. However, if you have a DSLR and that's what you want to shoot with, you're more than welcome to do that too. For this assignment, you'll use photograph a variety of subject matter. Please photograph a mix of subjects to illustrate the required content. Use available daylight. Do not shoot indoors or at night, as there will be not sufficient amount of light to capture this. Try and make it easy on yourself. So I have you photographing effectively 3 different subjects. And I'm not giving you a subject like a car or a person or a thing. The subject number 1 is light. So light should take center stage in your photograph or provide so much character. Someone looking at your photograph will utter these words, "Oh my, look at the lighting." So check that out, right? Capture 15 images. Your images should focus on lighting that is illuminating your subject, the direction, the quality, the quantity, which should be all reminiscent of the 4 factors of exposure, right? Quantity of light, the light. And since we're talking about quantity of light, the ISO, and then we get into exposure with both shutter speed, and aperture. So the second thing I want you to think about and look at and capture is shadows. The shadow should take the center stage of your photographs or provide so much character someone looking at your photo will utter these words, "Oh my, so dramatic." Right? The direction of light will also play a part in these images. If you choose the wrong direction, like very frontal light, you will not really have any shadows. So you're probably either going to have side light, backlighting, maybe even some above lighting, top lighting. Do not include the light source in any of these photographs. You will develop these photographs in black and white. Step 3, good exposure. Seek out locations and subjects that will provide the most appropriate exposure you can. Demonstrate yourself visualizing a great location with great exposure. Think, wow, that looks so controlled. Exposure is everything in these images. Someone might even think your main subject is the exposure. Do not include the light source. It will be processed in black and white. And the final one, the fourth one, which will also be 15 images, seek out locations and subjects that will provide the worst or most challenging exposure that you can take. Your subject might even, your viewer might even think, wow, that looks so challenging. Again, do not include the light source. All these images will be in black and white. If you're using a mobile device, you can through that. What you're going to be turning in, you're effectively going to be turning in 5 total files, a contact sheet or screenshot of all of your images, the 60 images, 60, yeah. Your final light image, final shadow, final good exposure, and final bad exposure. And that will be fantastic. So let me back up this guy, and this guy. Oh my gosh, here we are. Still in week 3. So there is the assignment. Then there's the discussion of the assignment. So you're going to upload your favorite images here. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to change that. Look at it. I'm already changing it, and I'm changing it for you because it seemed like a lot of photographs. So it'll be 1 and 1. So you're just going to upload the 4 images. Here we go, down to the bottom. You're just going to upload the 4 images. 1 light image, 1 shadow image, 1 good exposure, 1 bad exposure, and then you can read the rest of those, right? You can read through there and talk about the things that I have, and then don't forget to always comment on your classmates' work. This is, I think, is this our first critique? I think it might be. So there we are. Moving right along before I jump into this creative process one. There's the sketchbook one. I'm going to jump a little bit. To this week. You're going to notice on week 3 a secondary module open up. And there's a secondary module opening up because it is an assignment that will have a 2-week window, but I want to give it to you today so you have 2 weeks to work on it. And 1 week is this discussion, our mobile photo creative process. And then there is the actual assignment and the shooting part. So let me pop this open and talk about this first. You will have 2 weeks to create this assignment. We're going to start talking about all kinds of good stuff. What do we have in here? I have a mobile photo assignment. So this is the first assignment I normally give on campus. Using this, I wanted to get our feet wet, just taking some photos with our phones, some light lifting. And now I want to start jumping into a little bit more heavy creative process and being very mindful and thoughtful on the creation of these photos. So you are going to create a portrait of a person. It has to be a person. It cannot be an animal, and not a child as well. I don't want to see any child photos. And I'm doing you a favor because children are super challenging to photograph and get to stand still. So your objective is to create professional looking imagery using your mobile device, experience professional expectations using limited tools, and make decisions on how effective mobile devices are for professionals. So we're jumping into this conversation of mobile devices. Everybody says how everybody's going to be shooting, and they're the professional tool of the future. Well, let's let you decide that. Let's see your experience. So some of the basic things we'll be talking about and the expectations. For me, our professional quality image. This includes aesthetic considerations as well as production type and considerations. The assignment is, and I might be changing this up a little bit. I'm trying to remember. As an editorial portrait story of 5 images. So you're effectively going to be creating a 5-image story of a particular person. These are guidelines to give to you so you've got some trajectory on what to shoot. I don't want to see all of the same passport photos. I don't want to see 5 passport photos. Nobody wants to see 5 passport photos. What we want to see is one head and shoulders, kind of a passport photo. Make it creative and make it intense, make it great. An emotive or an action photo, full-length portrait in an environment, a waist-up photo, still life, something that tells something about that person. And then I threw in hands, and I have some examples coming up. So some subjects, but you do not have to, if you don't know an athlete or you don't know a musician or a firefighter or a farmer, don't photograph one of those. And if the only thing you have is a parent or a sibling in the house, then figure out what their favorite thing to do is, take them to a simple location, and let's create some impactful photos of them and something that will tie them together, us to them, and the things that they love to do. So you're going to need to capture your required content, and in this case it's going to be 35 per category. So 35 portrait, motive, full length, waist up, hands, and at the end you're going to have 175 plus images using your mobile device. You're more than welcome to capture more than 175, but in this case you only have to capture 175. So yeah, I'm going to go in there and change here. I got print images. We're not going to be printing. You're just going to be uploading to Canvas at the end of this. So what you'll be graded on, did you complete all the basic requirements? Did you complete, you can read all this stuff. So let's cruise down. At the bottom here, I have some pretty amazing videos, all of which were captured on mobile devices. These are films that were in theaters that were captured on mobile devices. So I'm not saying they're not professional tools. As a matter of fact, they are being used professionally, especially this one shot on the iPhone 11 Pro. Yeah, it's new technology, but I think it's really the amount of production value that they provided along with it, lighting and location and prop styling. This is just the tool to capture the writer, storyteller's imagination. So some examples. Let's pop into here. I already feel like I'm going too long. Let's pop into the mobile assignment. And let's see, I'm going to start right off on here. Here. And the first thing I wanted to show you is just the idea that I have behind this. Very simple, effective, powerful portraits of somebody. If they have an interesting vocation or an interesting hobby, include that. Use really simple locations, simple lighting, super effective. Right? So that's the idea behind here. And these are all editorials, Vanity Fair, Rolling Stone, GQ magazine, Men's magazine, editorial stories that will often run multiple images. So here I have a couple different versions of it. Here's like a fashion editorial. And what's interesting about all of these photos that I'm about to show you is they were all captured with mobile devices. Pretty effective and amazing shots of the very dreamy Ryan Gosling. If I didn't tell you, would you know these are mobile photos? Or are they just great photos? Great lighting, great propping, great connection, great model. Right? It's going to be pretty hard to go wrong with Ryan Gosling. And they ran it on the cover of GQ. So some more documentary style photographs, and you'll talk to a lot of interviews with National Geographic photographers, and the phone has provided a lot of access that a DSLR or cameras will often intimidate the subjects or difficult to get into locations because they're big, they're heavy, and you're climbing and at night, right? All kinds of crazy stuff. So now This is actually the assignment that inspired me to think about this. And this is a series that Time magazine ran. All the covers were of different powerful women, celebrating women. And this is one photographer who shot all of these photographs, all on an iPhone. Imagine showing up to a photo shoot and you're going to photograph Selena Gomez or Ellen or Oprah Winfrey, who could arguably actually have you disappear, right? And Oprah Winfrey and Ellen and Selena Gomez have had the world's top best photographers taking their photographs. And here you go and you show up with your little iPhone, right? Dana Patrick, a race car driver who's actually like super intense, who could also probably have you disappear. Right? So think about these photos and having to show up in front of this person and own it and know it, right? And you're going to create art that is decision-making content that's going to be used on the cover of Time magazine with your mobile device. Take some time going through the PowerPoint to look at this and look at these photographs. A big part of the content that's being created, well, it's the person in front of it, but is optimizing the exposure. They're very controlled exposures in controlled lighting scenarios. You'll notice it's very open lighting, not very contrasty lighting. Photographer showed up with a fill card and location scouted open lighting sources, very controlled. So here's some other approaches that you could take. These are not mobile photos. I just wanted to show you some more interesting portrait. It could lean into the fashion end of it. So hands, what am I talking about hands? Right, include hands. Maybe you're taking a portrait story of a painter or a tradesperson or a guitar player or a skateboarder, right? Their hands often tell the story of who they are. A motive, right? Get the person in front of the camera to emote. Give us some emotion, some connection. Details. What do we mean by details? I don't have some great stills here, but for instance, if you're shooting Michael Jordan, right, and you include a shoe shot, or if you're, I use musicians and guitar players, and you photograph a detailed shot of their guitar or their amp or the stage, right? Some kind of still life. So here is some student work photographed for this assignment. I started off with what I thought were interesting versions of the assignment. I don't know that they're the best at executing, for instance, optimizing the exposure. For me, these look like mobile photos. They're still nice, cool shots, but they look like mobile photos, right? Look at how much the sky breaks up and it becomes hard, and the transitions are very challenged. This would be an example of maybe a bad or challenging exposure situation. Cool, but they look like mobile photos. Now here's like this beautiful still life or detail. This photographer went with this more fashion-oriented portrait shoot, which I thought was really, really cool. Look how awesome these are. This photographer wanted to go a little bit more documentary. I would really prefer them to be straight standard portraits, but I thought here's that action-oriented photograph. Right? A beautiful portrait. This one's really great. Now, these tend to look more mobile photo to me. Look at the background and how difficult that small sensor is having at rendering the detail. And there's a few things. The lighting is so challenging. Think of those Time cover magazines. That's not happening here. And I used to include a still life component, and I thought this photographer did a fantastic job. And this looks like a full ad shot. This is the mobile photo assignment. And then this is a past student, Rozzy, who shoots a lot of skateboarding advertising actually. And he funny enough, when we started doing this assignment, he had already worked on a job where he was hired by another photographer who had a mobile client who was having all of the photographers shoot with these mobile devices. I thought that was pretty interesting. Here's one of those detailed shots, right? Hand shot, detailed shot, portraits. Really interesting. I thought this was a pretty great portrait series. This looks like a mobile phone shot to me. Look how the highlights start to break apart, and then all of the color preferencing that's happening in there. Still great photos. Interesting angle. And I love this whole series. This photographer really, I thought, did a beautiful fashion portrait story. Here's the contact sheets of everything. I don't think I included the finals. I actually thought the photos that she chose in the finals weren't as good as some of her contact sheets here. She didn't know what to do with the hands, so she did this, which I didn't know that was all that interesting, but it's a difficult subject to include when the subject and clearly the motivation in these photographs is more of the styling and the fashion than it is, let's say, photographing a tradesperson or a guitar player, where their hands really are a part of their trade. And then I thought this photographer did a really beautiful story on their friend. Really lovely photos. And here is contact sheets. And there you are. There's the story. I wanted to throw, did I get it out? Sorry. I wanted to throw the whole assignment at you right off the bat. Spend some time thinking about it, because we're going to go back and we're going to go to the discussion. And the discussion is the place for you to start the creative process. Use your sketchbook to really do the creative process. But in here is the discussion where you're going to upload by next weekend your ideas, your brainstorming ideas, your pre-production of the ideas, the location, the lighting, the materials. This is you putting it all together before you leave your house to go shoot. The easy part is basically your whole shoot will be done by the time you finish this. You just need to go do the fun part and photograph it. So here's your checklist. Read through that. In the end, what you're uploading is 10 images. You're embedding 10 images into this assignment from your creative process. Directly after each image, talk about it, and you can read through the questions here. Go back. So seemingly busy week. You've got the discussion on Sarah Moon, your short little exposure photo assignment. Start thinking about exposure. Start looking for locations. Your critique and review of those images, and then your discussion for the assignment that you'll have in 2 weeks. Wow, seems like a lot. All right, let's see how that goes. And I then have a page for you in exposure review. I know it's a little step back. I've got a video that I have made. There's a couple references to editing, but the same thing applies for us. Let's see, I think that is everything. This video's already, I was trying to segment these videos a little bit more. It just didn't happen this week. Optimizing our capture. So I hope you're having a great fall semester so far. I'm here for you. You can email me anytime. We've got our discussion forums. We have our Tuesday and Thursday open lab or open office hour synchronous meeting times. You can pop in and let me know. Sometimes I hang out for about 30 minutes. If nobody's on, I bounce out of there. But you can send me an email. We can pop back on. If you want to talk about something more private, don't forget to send me an email, and I can set up another Zoom link. And that way we don't have to share your grades or personal information to the open Zoom class. I hope everybody's having a great semester. And I sent out some more announcements on Mount SAC resources. Don't forget to review those. See you later.